ladies and gentlemen. It's Billy and Eddie. Welcome back to this week's episode of Couch Trip Therapy for Everyday Life with yours truly, Billy Courtright, and the one and only therapist extraordinaire, Mr. Eddie Reece. Eddie and I were just having a nice conversation, laughed a little, got a little heated, and now we're talking about how best to impact our community here. And where I'm going to begin with this week's episode is I'm no stranger to, I'm going to speak for the every person, and there's probably a lot of you out there that are similar to me in that we are no strangers to the personal development arena. We go through, I get no less than 30 emails a day from various thought leaders and course creators and info products and YouTube influencers of how I can essentially solve the challenge du jour, whether it's in business, in relationships, in health, fitness, anti-aging, being a better father, brother, sibling, son, colleague, Christian, business owner, whatever the case might be. There's no shortage of people looking to inform me where I've stepped sideways or how I could realign myself with the greatest path to some Valhalla that they likely presume I strive to achieve. As a sales professional, we often talk about bridging the gap between where people are and where they want to be. We'll use terms like Heaven Island and Hell Island, or less preferred to more preferred, or current situation to desired situation. And we're kind of all around this concept that our ideal future rests within us, that we are 2 steps away, 1 decision away, a podcast or a book away, a YouTube video or a Netflix docudrama away from figuring it all out. And Eddie and I were talking about that a minute ago, and I said this would be an outstanding back and forth for a podcast. So, with the understanding that if you're anything like us, you're likely seeing these headlines and subject lines of emails and and thumbnails of YouTube videos, and you're just one 30-second clip away from having it all figured out. And if we could just find the right book at the right moment, everything would be so darn easy. If you hear some sarcasm, it's intended, because the reality is I've been searching for a better, faster, more efficient, simpler, easier, better outcome for my entire adult and pretty much all of my teenage years as well. And I'm still in search. So, Eddie, why are we so big of a mark for these personal professional development people and influencers? Why are we so in search of a better, more meaningful existence? Why can't we accept where and who we are? And where is the wiring getting crossed? And how can you help us?
Yeah, my first thought is the this is the last episode we did. Lord knows how we're going to order this when we publish them, but the episode about striving, how we're always striving, and you described it well. I'm one more book away, I'm one more click away from having it done, because we're always looking for easy answers. There's I've got a whole little thing of easy answers right here. This is one of the first
Is
things
it full or
I
empty?
got. Still nothing in there.
You've given them all away.
Yeah, I got this when I first became a therapist 30-some years ago.
You didn't send me any.
No, yeah, when clients go that direction, I go, well, there's a jar over there. You can check it out. It's probably still empty. There just aren't any to get better, because if you've listened to some of these podcasts, and read the books, and you can begin to kind of at least conceptualize how complicated in every one of us are. And you can't just go tweak one thing and then you're everything you always want to be. I mean, is that the Army slogan, be all you can be? None of us are ever going to achieve that, first of all. So that that's where I would start with somebody is you're trying to live out a fantasy and make it come true. And that's not going to happen. So that's the first thing. And you mentioned in there, how do we become happy with who we are? Well, I don't know that that's even a goal. I'm not happy with ways that I behave at times. I will want those to be different. I'm happy with this. It's not an all or nothing. That's where we make our big mistake. I think is a good way to put it. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm good now. Everything's all right. Well, I'm sure it's not. But maybe that's what you want to tell yourself so that you can relax. So where I go with this is I point to two things. If you want something easy, if you want something simple, although it's not at all easy or simple, regulate your nervous system. And we've talked about that an awful lot. That's the very first thing. That's the answer to every situation. Regulate your nervous system so that you can get the balance you need of emotion and logic, to really simplify it so that you're not too emotional in a situation where you need some logic and you're not too logical in a situation that calls for emotion. That's always the first step. And then the second one is something we've touched on, I think, a few times, but we're going to do a deep dive today. It's what I call the kindness dialogue. And that's my version of what's typically called active listening. And if you're spending time around self-help or improvement or anything, you've had a communication class. This is how you communicate to somebody. There's a lot of stuff in conflict resolution of how you have a conversation. So when I walk a client through the kindness dialogue, I'm really doing bits and pieces of all those different things. So this is kind of my model of putting it together. And it's not really so much about a conversation with someone else. It's about the conversations I believe we have in our head every waking moment. And so you should be a little confused at this point because you're like, I'm not, I do talk to myself, but that's not all the time. Yeah, you are talking to yourself all the time. If you have a thought, that's going to be a piece of a conversation. So if I look out the window and I go, "Oh, it looks like a nice day outside," I'm thinking that. That's a thought. Who did I say that to? And we would pretty much go, "Well, you said it to yourself." Okay, which self did I say it to? Because I believe we're all multiplicity. We're all made up of probably countless different parts. A part that keeps our heart beating, a part that keeps us breathing. So the physiological, but we also have parts of thoughts, feelings, wants, desires, and they're not in alignment most of the time. So I think it's really helpful if we get those conversations into our consciousness. So if I go, "Oh, it looks like it's really nice outside," I want another part to respond, the part that feels like it was spoken to. And he could respond in a number of different ways depending on the relationship I have between these two parts. If it's an adversarial relationship, the response might be, "I don't care. I still feel like crap. Maybe I'm depressed. Maybe I'm sad. Maybe I have some sort of feelings that I've tried to, hold down." So there would be kind of an argument. One part's going, "Wow, it looks really nice out. It makes me feel, happy. I'd like to get out there and enjoy it." and another part going, oh, that's Eeyore, and Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh is a great little thing like the Wizard of Oz. It's all these different parts of one person, really, and how they navigate a quest that they're on. So ideally, there's always a conversation that's conscious. An example I've worn out is before the pandemic, I would always eat my main meal out. I don't want to go through the trouble of cooking and, going to the grocery store, figure out what to cook, learn to cook it, rather go pay somebody for all that. So when it's time to go eat, instead of where do I want to go eat, which would presuppose that I'm this singular entity and there's only one desire for food. I go, where do you guys want to eat today? And then there's going to be a conversation. There's going to be part of me that says, why don't we go have Mexican? And then another part says, oh, we had Mexican a couple of days ago. Yeah, we did. What about the Italian place? What about the, and everybody's throwing in their thoughts and then they're all kind of like, oh yeah, that would work. And then everybody has a consensus of let's go here and eat. If you do it the way most of us do, where do I want to eat? I'm a singular entity. I want to go eat Mexican. Okay, I'm going to go eat Mexican. You go eat Mexican. And there's part of you that goes, I didn't want Mexican. We had Mexican 2 days ago. Or, we haven't eaten, gone to the chicken place and had chicken in like 2 weeks. And now I'm not really happy. You don't have any conscious thought of that because you haven't brought it into your consciousness, but that part of you is not going to be really happy with the other part. And so it's going to throw some kind of mess into the mix of, this meal wasn't really that good, or, there's going to be something that goes on in there.
Mhm.
And this happens over countless parts of ourselves all day, probably all night long, even in our dreams. So if we do the timeless dialogue, then we're going to get that conversation out in the open. First of all, I want people to listen to that conversation because what pretty much everybody will discover is they're really, really mean to themselves. Most of the time we're walking around going, "Oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, crap. I'm actually hitting myself." So there's a part of me that's actually being physically violent with myself, while another part is psychologically berating me. It's not I'm an idiot, it's you're an idiot. Uh, so you've got to get that conversation out there, a part of you that goes, you're just an idiot, and then the other part needs to respond. And so the kindness dialogue is how you do that. That's enough for now. My voice is shot today. Say something, Billy.
Oh, it's great. No, I'm just sitting here thinking about when, as you started this conversation and we mentioned electrical appliances and, we've talked about, the
Got
the
it.
wire
Yeah.
the wiring, and
Wiring.
the reality is we just don't evolve as quickly as I think people would like. The reality is we were developed over thousands of years to be a certain way, and only in the last couple hundred have we been introduced to a lot of the societal communication, status and significance, judgment, community, tribalism, all these things. And the reality is, at our core, we're still trying to outwit the saber-toothed tiger. And we're still dealing with the
Yeah.
wiring of the electrical appliance, and we're still attracted to this opportunity for betterment, and as I refer to as the Valhalla of just immediately
Mhm.
understanding the way forward. But the reality is we are always going to be predisposed to those autonomic reactions, that fight, flight, flock, freeze, whatever the case
Yeah.
might be, and, it's gonna take a lot longer for us to evolve into the type of individual where the kindness dialogue is no longer that important.
No, 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 it's a little different from that in that we're gonna evolve a lot faster if the kindness dialogue of nervous system regulation becomes the norm,
Well, how can we talk
and that
ourselves out of thousands of years of nervous system reaction?
you don't talk yourself out of it, you stop the arguing.
Okay, so what I hear
You
you say is we have to be more accepting.
No, mm-mm. Because that's a dead end, easy answer road, you know? "Oh, I will accept myself as I am today," people,
Good point.
and I know I'm sounding condescending because
No, no, no.
it makes me mad when people believe this stuff, that you can, give yourself positive affirmations all day and then you will become that. That's just not true because if there's an adversarial relationship, why would I need to say, "I'm okay as I am"? Why would I need to say that? The only reason you would need to say that is because there's some part going, "You suck,"
Yeah.
right? Because
I
they're
don't know
not
any
singular entities.
true, but I don't know anybody who's preaching, "You're okay as you are," so much as what I'm hearing.
Gosh, I hear that all the time.
Well, okay, but I'm what I seem to what I seem to remember, I'm not maybe selective hearing, but what I seem to remember is, at least what I'm reading and listening to, is more or less you have what it takes. In other words, you can make change. You can affect change. You can where you
Which
are is
is
not
I
where you
think
have
an
to be.
I think that's another trap because the way people are going to take that is I can do whatever I want.
Mhm.
I can become anything I want to become. No, you can't.
I ain't never starting, for the Hawks. Like, I'm
Yeah,
5'7",
yeah,
ladies and gentlemen. I am
yeah,
not gonna be a professional NBA player. I don't believe that you can accomplish anything, but I do believe that you can create an environment for growth. You can create an environment for
yes.
exploration and improvement. And I don't believe
Which, which in my way of thinking, with this idea of a kindness dialogue becoming the norm, is all of that equals we can be kinder, more compassionate, and more curious toward ourselves and
that's right. I
others.
agree with that.
And so if you practice those things, which again means regulating your nervous system and learning to talk with yourself in a way that's kind and compassionate and curious, then you have achieved anything that you want to achieve just by doing that. So let's take the example of this idea of, oh, I need to tell myself that I'm an okay person. Okay. Who needs to tell who that inside? And if you go, well, I feel like I'm not. Okay. Who is that? Let's bring these parts out. Let's bring out the part that says, you're not okay, dude. And who is he saying that to? And get those parts to come to the table and learn to talk to each other
Yeah.
and listen to each other. So the way that would work is, all right, let's make one part the speaker, one part the listener. This is basic active listening. So the part that says you suck becomes the speaker. You suck. What I hear you saying is that I suck. So the format here is the speaker and the listener, and the listener parrots back word for word what the speaker said. So I hear you saying that I suck. Yeah, you suck because you've been trying to accomplish this for 10 years and you really haven't gotten anywhere with it. So I suck because I've been trying to accomplish this for 10 years and I really haven't gotten anywhere with it. Yeah. Which proves to me that you're never going to get anywhere with it because you're a loser and you might as well just admit that. So You're saying that I'm never gonna accomplish it, I'm never gonna get anywhere with it because 'cause I'm a loser and I need to just accept that. And you keep doing that over and over and over, and this is the part where everybody struggles because, first of all, it's tedious, and we don't like tedious things. It's formatted, we don't like formatted things. And we always, in this idea of striving, we always want, what's the end game? Where am I supposed to wind up with this? When is that going to happen? We're very impatient. So you're going to set up this meta level arguing that goes on while you're attempting to do this. There's going to be the two parts who are participating. There's going to be another part that's like, when is it, when are we gonna get there? What is this about? What am I trying to accomplish? And the guy, he's telling me I suck. The hell with him. I don't care about him anyway, you know?
Right. Yeah, no.
We're gonna wanna get back into the argument. So if you go through this tedious thing, what's gonna happen, the short miss, since we're all impatient, is this part is finally gonna go, yeah, so give it up because you're driving me and yourself crazy by trying to do something you're never gonna do.
Yeah, that's where you lose me, 'cause I think I love the active listening, and, you know, when you initially said, you know, the kindness dialogue could most, or maybe I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but you said it's kinda like active listening, and immediately in my mind, I drew a parallel to, Dr. Covey and, Seek First to Understand. So
Mhm.
the idea, but here's where I was enlightened, and this is why I appreciate your perspective, is because active listening to me has always been one to one. Where I was enlightened is it's an active listening dialogue, it's an active listening exploration, it's an active listening quest, your word, within oneself. You're
Right.
seeking
Bec
first to understand the parts of yourself,
right.
and that's the dialogue. And the dialogue
Yeah.
in and of itself is kind.
Right, because who's your best friend?
Right,
You know? You are.
right,
Who do you spend the most time with? Yourselves,
right.
right? So if those relationships are not kind, compassionate, curious, you're never going to achieve much of anything because you could win 50 Nobel Prizes and have all the money you could ever possibly want. And you're still going to be going, you suck and you know you suck. That's why successful people have the problems that they have. You know, that's why unsuccessful people have the problems that they have. They're beating the crap out of themselves constantly, and they don't even know they're doing it. And if you can point it out in any way, shape, or form, they don't see it as beating the crap out of themselves. I'm trying to motivate myself.
Yeah,
Mhm. So I am trying to be nice. So if you go through this dialogue and just do that first thing of parroting back, the speaker's gonna get to some place that is, I want you to know this because I'm trying to help you. I'm not doing it to be me. And this part will finally be able to hear that when it gets its own stuff out of the way, which is why you need to stay with a tedious formatted approach so that you're not letting your emotions come in and push you back into the argument.
right.
So at some point, the listener's gonna go, oh, okay, I get it. And the format is you, their words, because their words. So you think I suck because I've been at this for 10 years and I've never been able to accomplish it. I don't even get close to it. And since I'm such a loser, I mean, this proves I'm a loser, that it's never going to happen. And I'm driving you crazy trying to do something that's impossible, and I'm driving myself crazy trying to do something impossible, and you're telling me that we'd all be better off if I just gave it up and admitted that I'm a loser and I'm never gonna succeed. And then if I've done that well enough, the speaker will give you a head nod, which the listener gets when he really gets it. And it's a involuntary response. "Oh, I get it." And then the speaker goes, "Yeah, right." At that point, the argument has ended. There's nothing to argue about anymore. I see where you're coming from. This is seek to understand. I not only understand it, I can follow the logic of it, but it makes sense to me in a sense that there's no argument. You're absolutely right. The way you see this, the way you structure it, that is an excellent conclusion to come to. And you're right. I'm driving everybody crazy trying to accomplish something that you see as absolutely impossible. And if I could see that it was impossible, I could give it up and we'd all relax. Absolutely. You're right. And so this part goes, okay, here's what has really happened. This part, like all parts, has a picture of this situation. This a literal picture. It's a world. It's not a snapshot. It's a world. This is the world I live in. Here's what I see when I look at this. And now that has been transmitted to the listener, and the listener sees that world from that part's point of view rather than, yeah, I see your world, and your world is wrong and stupid because it's not impossible. And I know I can achieve it. I just have to fill in the blank. So I see your world. Your world makes perfect sense to me. I can see why you'd be all over me. I can see why you want me to stop. So now this the speaker feels heard, seen, validated, acknowledged. All of that to me equals, instead of being an adversary over here, I have helped this part more fully exist. That's what we're all looking for. When people go, we're looking to be heard, felt, seen. What I think you're really saying is we're desiring a connection with ourselves, other people, that says, I see you the way you see you. Because we didn't get that growing up. A worn out example is I cry, parent hits me, I go, okay, I shouldn't cry. So the crying part of me is not allowed to exist because if he exists, my survival is threatened. So I got to shut that down. So the only way I'm going to shut that down is this very conversation. You suck. Stop crying. Don't be a baby. I'm going to shame myself the same way I was shamed by being cruel. And if you listen to your thoughts about yourself, you'll hear the cruelty. It's not, "I'm being a little hard on myself." No,
But how do
you're
we turn that
vicious.
how do we turn that in that? Because 'cause you're right. So when we find ourselves being vicious or being uber critical or unkind in every way,
Right.
when a conversation with ourselves, plural,
Yeah.
how do I know, okay, take a step back. How do I transition to this acknowledgement, validation, not acceptance, but acknowledgement, seek first to understand? How do we get into the kindness dialogue? It's very important.
Always, always, always step one is regulate your nervous system because you're being mean because your nervous system is dysregulated. You meaning your sympathetic nervous system is way too activated. You're starting to feel threatened.
Right.
And
And that's
fight,
what I
flight,
meant
flight,
by the whole
freeze.
evolution, like we're predisposed.
Yeah, that's going to happen, okay? Because we have to look at the whole world as threat, no threat. Is that a threat or threat? How big of a threat? What actions do I need to take? So regulate. So and there's a co-regulation that happens through this kind of interaction, this kindness dialogue, as I call it. That's a co-regulation because I'm not going to fight against the fight. I'm going to go with, which I call improv, go with. I'm going to go, okay, come on. I'm with you. Tell me all about it. I want to see what you see. And then that begins to regulate the nervous system. So, to more specifically answer your question, as soon as you hear "you suck," you've gotta be regulated enough to go, kindness dialogue, become the listener.
Mm, right.
So what I hear is you telling me I suck, and stay the listener. And what you think, feel, believe, throw it out. Your job is to be curious, and I tell folks that struggle with they just jump right back into the argument, is that you can approach this just the way I'm talking about it from an incredibly selfish point of view. Because what I'm proposing is you have to be curious. What is this person's world? I wanna see their world. I wanna understand. I really wanna understand. Maybe I wanna understand so I can prove to them how idiotic they are. But I'm not going to be able to see their world clearly enough if I keep throwing my world at them, because then I'm arguing. And now we're 2 kids in a schoolyard. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Infinity. Okay. So the arguing has to stop. No arguing ever for any reason. This is really good couples therapy. It's really good individual therapy, which is group therapy. It's all group therapy. Who's saying what to whom? Let's get them out here and do it differently
Mm,
so you can get a different result. And I mean, this is ancient wisdom, Buddhism, it's all in the end, only kindness matters, the jewel song. It's kindness, curiosity, compassion. And think it, if you think about it, you go, my goodness, this applies everywhere.
yeah.
So in your world of improvement, striving, you could have a wonderful plan to accomplish that. It won't work with a dysregulated, argumentative nervous system and inner world because one part's going to buy into your program and another part's going to go bullshit 100% of the time. But you won't be conscious of that. And that's, I think we've touched on that's what happens when this argument goes on out of the realm of consciousness, which it usually does, because none of us think we're being cruel. But I go, okay, you're sitting here going, I suck. I'm the worst person in the world. Would you say that out loud to anybody you know? Would you go, you suck. You're the worst person in the world? No.
Mm,
Okay, but you say it to your best friend, the person you spend most time with. What sense does that make?
None.
Okay. But you're not gonna just stop doing it because you have practiced it every waking moment of your life. You're a ninja at it, man. I mean, if
Right.
you know, it's
You
done.
know,
You
I'll tell
don't
you
even
something.
know it happened.
Yeah, totally true. And I'm reminded of something that you said early on when we started doing these recordings, and we touched on the topic that one good thing that could come from our conversations, our broadcast conversations, would be the removal of the stigma of therapy.
Yeah.
We talked
Yeah,
about that.
of asking for help, asking
Right.
somebody for
And
help.
and the reality is, and I don't even know if you realize this, but I guess it's the concept of what you look for, you will find. And so maybe this is my lens now, or I'm speaking through the lens of you and I having these conversations each week. But what I'm seeing within the space of self improvement, personal development, executive coaching, leadership, team building is there is much more acknowledgement and encouragement, and dare I say acceptance around the idea that some of the most accomplished ones among us are receiving therapy all the time. There
Yeah,
is a group of us where
it's
it's now cool
definitely
to
more
be in therapy.
accepted. Yeah, it's more accepted. I mean, I tell people, I'm a therapist in the South.
Yeah, sure.
So, the cards are stacked against me. The
Yeah,
stigma
if
for going to therapy, and even though the Metro Atlanta area is incredibly progressive compared to everything outside of Metro Atlanta.
yeah,
If I were a therapist in California or New
100%.
York,
Right.
I've I
Oh,
have I'm gonna have to hire hundreds of other therapists to see everybody that wants to come see me,
that's
and
right.
the stigma is actually the other way. "You're not
Yeah,
in therapy? What's wrong with
right.
you? One thing to
100%.
do with you."
Yeah, and a lot of the
So
people I'm following are in that space. They're techpreneurs, they're Northern California,
right.
NoCal through and through. I mean, we're a stone's throw of Forsyth County, and for our listeners, research it, you know? Just research Forsyth County, and you'll know all you need to know about where Eddie and I live, but
Yeah.
it's the reality is, yeah, we're close to a
What up,
progressive area.
Forsyth County? I live in Colton County, man.
I said we're a stone's throw from. We
I'm a
both
stone's
live in
throw from
Fulton.
that backwoods thing place you live.
Yeah, I mean, I was a kid in Chicago when Oprah was interviewing some of those wackadoodles, and I couldn't believe there were people on the planet that still felt that way. Not say nothing
I
about the
was
fact that not only do they feel that way, they were empowered enough to go on national TV and say it.
oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about this in years. I was actually in the audience on an Oprah show when she used to walk around with a microphone, and
That's the one I'm talking about.
I got to talk. She came over to me, and I got to talk about it was some kind of relationship thing, so I felt like,
Oprah Winfrey
I know
was
about this.
sensitivity training for me in my 20s.
She was, but even Oprah, as much good as she's done, and this is the point I'll make, is I'm listening to you, you're talking about, "Hey, we've made all these advancements, and there's, the stigma is not as big." Yeah, absolutely, and at the same time, most of what I couldn't venture to guess a percentage of it, but I do believe it's most of what most therapists do with clients comes from kind of what we were talking about, this idea of striving, that you're going to come to me and I'm going to help you. They might say be a better person, but what both people really want, believe, and are striving for is to reach your full potential, to be all that you can be, to satisfy one side of the argument, and become a more singular person. I don't hear a lot from therapists about working with the multiplicity that I think we all are, which is where our difficulties come from and where the re- best response to those difficulties come from is by going, I have a lot of different wants, desires, feelings. There's an author that I read a lot in my 20s named John Barth. He recently died within the last year or so. He wrote a book, uh, The End of the Road, the main character named Jacob Horner. It's amazing because I don't have a very good memory for things like this. But Jacob Horner had a line. Somebody asked him what he thought, what was his opinion, and he said, I have all opinion. And I remember as a young man being really struck by that. What a bizarre concept that was. But I think most of us are much like that. We have so many conflicting wants, desires, opinions, way that we are. We think we're nice people, and my gosh, try to be as nice and kind as I can to everybody, and at the same time, watch me in traffic. Watch me listening to the news, and I'm not a nice person. So I am both.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of bringing that into my consciousness and having those two sides in that moment really talk to each other.
Yeah.
Because one side of me is going to go, you're being so nice. You're so Pollyanna. You don't really get what these are evil, vile, nasty things you're dealing with here. You just need to wipe them off the face of the earth. I mean, that's survival. I mean, that's where we
Well, yeah,
all
the greater the threat, the
live.
greater the reaction.
Right. So, and then there's the part that's being mean that yells at somebody from my car in traffic. There's another part of me that goes, "I'm almost horrified by that."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Well, you're an idiot, the guy could have killed us, and he's endangering me and everybody around him, get him out of my way." And so they have to stay in constant contact. It's sort of like, "Oh, maybe he's gotta pee really bad. Maybe he just got a call and his kid's in the emergency room, and he's in a hurry. And how many times have you pulled out in front of people because you weren't paying attention? Come on, man.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't know
and
who.
then it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. Well,
Well, I don't remember who said it, but I'm struck by the quote that every one of us is fighting a battle that no one knows about.
right. And that there's a great commercial, Volunteers of America. This guy's walking he's walking across a crosswalk in a crowded city, and he sees himself, and they go into this wrestling match, and then they break apart, and then they stare at each other, and then they walk away. It's really powerful. This is what I'm talking about. We're all like that inside, and we need help with that because we're taught that you win, you argue well enough, you become a singular person, and if you accomplish that, you become an extreme, Dr. Laura, Rush Limbaugh kind of character, to where present anything, you get the same three answers. And then I go, God, I'm just like that. It's regulate your nervous system, and have a kindness dialogue. I mean, it's like, and I can understand why this part would be like, just shut up, man.
Well,
Calm
I hope no
down.
one's feeling that. It
Oh, I don't
there's a
I
reason
think,
why, solitary confinement is perceived as one of the worst forms of torture.
oh,
In my
absolutely,
opinion,
because
90% of everything we're saying, probably greater than 90% of all of our self-talk is negative and disempowering and vicious
yeah,
and mean and judgmental.
it is.
And what I heard you say today, Eddie, is that the kindness dialogue and active listening and seeking first to understand and recognizing the individual parts of who you are within the room of that conversation are an
Right.
important step in
Oh,
getting
yeah,
to a
it
place
is.
of peace.
Right.
Understanding. Let's just say understanding. I don't know if it's good or bad or
understanding
indifferent, but it's understand
and
with knowledge is power. It is understanding there's some strength there.
understanding in a way to where compassion is activated.
Yeah, and
So
curiosity as
that
well.
you get that head nod, you go, "I get it. Okay, I get it. I
I
get
get it,
it."
and I care enough to acknowledge it, to validate it, and now I wanna see how
And
we can make it better.
not argue with it.
Right.
Okay. I wanna these ideally, these 2 parts spend enough time together in this way to where they go, "I hear your needs here. Your need is for a more peaceful existence."
That's right.
Me too, man. Which is why I'm trying to accomplish this. I believe it'll give us that, and along the way, it's not gonna feel peaceful.
Right.
Yeah, I get that, and I understand. I'd love to see you accomplish it, but I don't see it happening, you know?
Right.
I know. And so they can share those points of view without the anger, the cruelness, the meanness of how do I help you get your need met of a more peaceful existence
Right. Grace.
in grace. Yeah. And there's a book called Addiction and Grace, Gerald May. It says that God, and I'm not a religious person at all, but this makes sense that God's always trying to give us grace. I mean, the knowledge is out there,
Right.
but our arms are always too full.
Mm.
So you have to put these things down, which is I'm right about this. You need to see it the way I see it. You know, you're the problem, not me. You know, we've got to put all that down. I need to change. I need to be different. I need to be kinder, more curious, more compassionate. I need to really put concerted, tedious, formatted effort into hearing what your fears, wants, desires are, and see that we're just alike and we both have the same fears, wants, and desires. And how do we help each other get that? You know, then then I think we're good. And
Kindness,
and,
curiosity,
and
compassion.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Eddie, again, enlightening, courageous conversations had by me and you, buddy. This has been another episode of Couch Trip where we try to delve deeper and deeper into the subject matter of therapy for everyday life. We don't always see eye to eye. I learn something in every conversation. And I'm again better for having had this conversation. So this has been a good one. This is another episode. We can't wait to move on to next week. Stay tuned. Make sure you put in the comments or show notes the information and inspiration you'd like us to provide, because that's where we draw subject matter and topicality, and we move forward. So again, this has been Billy Courtright and Eddie Reece with this week's episode of Couch Trip Therapy for Everyday Life. And I'd just like to express again sincere gratitude for Eddie getting vulnerable and getting real, and helping all of us to understand that yeah, it's not easy, but it is possible, and it starts with a nice non-judgmental conversation with oneself. And then once you
yeah,
can understand that, you can have some curiosity, you can have some compassion, and you can be kind to yourself. And hopefully, on the other side of that kindness, there's some acknowledgement that you can have the entirety of the human experience and hopefully seek some solace in that. But as Dr. Covey tells us, seek first to understand, even if you're trying to understand yourselves.
yep.
All right.
Thanks,
It's
Billy.
my pleasure, sir. Talk to you next week.
Alrighty. Bye bye.